Hello everybody and welcome back to Ultimate Kart Racing. But also I'd like to introduce you to TX3 Games. So what is TX3 Games? TX3 Games is what I'm going to be calling the company that I will be doing all my tabletop games from. So TX3 Games actually comes from something called Threat X3 Productions. Threat X3 as in like Triple Threat Productions was because I was on YouTube. I did video games and sort of nerd analysis stuff. So you might have seen me if you've watched certain reviews, but probably not because I was not that famous at all. Through my love of video games is basically how I got started with making tabletop games. And so like when I first got started, even considering making games, is actually kind of brought on by my brother, Doug. He had me over and we did some Dungeons and Dragons. And that was sort of like the catalyst of figuring out, oh, if you don't like a game, you could just make one up. And so that's sort of how I first got started with, you know, kind of his inspiration and just how interesting of a DM that he was. And so that's kind of how I first got it started with thinking, oh, maybe I can make my own stuff too. And then I took sort of my love of video games and I wanted to make my first game being Ultimate Kart Racing. And so it kind of molded together two of my new loves, which was creating a game, you know, game design and video games, because Ultimate Kart Racing is obviously extremely inspired by Mario Kart, Crash Team Racing, you know, and a little bit of Mod Nation Racers, because in that one you can build your own track, and I definitely wanted to build my own track. So here at TX3 Games, we have three main pillars of what every game that I design will include. Pillar number one is that it will be very much video game related, if not at least video game adjacent. So far, I have a ton of ideas prattling around in my brain, and some even I've gotten on paper and started to work out the mechanics, and all of them have to do with some type of video game. But what if it was on the tabletop? And I know that there's definitely already a lot of that. There's a lot of games inspired by video games, but I am trying to do my own spin on it, and I'm trying to get it really down to a science. And I feel like I've done a really good job, and I've had people tell me that they like it. So that's why I'm going to keep going with it. And that's my inspiration, is video games and how much I love them. And so that's just one of the main pillars of TX3 Games. The second pillar of TX3 Games is actually every game will have relatively simple to learn rules, but then the depth will become from the mechanics and how you can use those simple rules. Now, I am the type of gamer that I do like certain games that are quite complex and maybe have a lot of moving parts, but I also have ADD. So when I have a board game, for instance, and it has so many moving components, like literal physical things that you have to work with, it just becomes so jumbled and I get very disinterested. Not only that, but like while it might be fun to set up, it's very much not fun to then clean up afterwards. So for example, this game is called Overboss, a boss monster adventure. So it's actually based off of another game that I really called Boss Monster, and it's from Brotherwise Games. I absolutely love them, and I love pretty much everything that they've made so far. So I love this game, hands down. But the problem arises when it's time to set up to play the game. Let me give you just a quick preview of what it's like to set this game up. Here we go. Okay, so we got like scoreboards. Here's a bag where a bunch of stuff. So here's your playing area, and each person gets a playing area. It's not one single board. It's each person gets essentially their own board. Okay, and then this is where it gets a little bit ridiculous because there are so many of these tiles. And so you put those tiles on that little board that I just showed. But each one of these tiles has little mini tiles like this that you put into the center of it. I love this game. I absolutely, positively love this game. But then putting it back up can take forever, and I love it, but it is so complex with how many moving parts, literal moving parts there are, that it gets just exhausting. So one of my core tenets, one of my core pillars of TX3 Games is that I want my games to be simple. I don't want there to be a bunch of hit markers and a bunch of, I'm gonna build that stuff into the game itself. I'm gonna build a way that you can keep track of status, keep track of conditions, keep track of attacks, keep track of hit markers, but it's all built in a way that you can do it without so much. So Overboss is an example of how complicated it could be. A good example, I think, is HeroClix. HeroClix is really cool because you can have Marvel characters, DC characters, Star Trek characters, but a lot of the information, as long as you understand the rules, a lot of the information can actually just be on the character itself. Here's how much it can move. Here's how much it can attack. And then you get hit, so you just twist the little thing. It's so cool. It's so intuitive. And then even then, certain abilities that they have are notated by just a color. And so you look at that color corresponding in this nice little booklet. It's not a big one. And so you can just reference it. And so that's really simple. And it's really built in a way where, like, if you wanted to, you could completely ignore the special stuff and you could just see how far can I move and how much damage can I do. And there you go. And I love that. I love how simple it can be. And that's a huge inspiration for me, is being able to build a game that's just so pick up and play. Yes, there is tons of depth to it because there's all the special abilities that I just mentioned, but there's also so much to it that it's just pick up, go, get it done. The final pillar of TX3 Games is that everything will be modular. And so what I mean by that is that everything will be able to be randomized each time. Every game will have some sort of way that the board that you put down to play on can never be the same 2 times in a row. You'll always be able to move stuff around, whether that be like the enemies inside of a room or the room itself, and being able to motion it. A perfect example is my very first game, which is Ultimate Kart Racing. Ultimate Kart Racing, you build the track. So theoretically, if you put the pieces down, you can put them down in so many different ways, so many different combinations, that you'll never have the same track 2 times in a row. And that's the point. I want it to be different. Not only that, but then you have the ability cards. The ability cards, I'm going to basically have booster packs, kind of like in a Magic the Gathering. And so then you can start building up a deck of abilities that you can use on the other racers. And then there's going to be terrain packs where I'm going to put out a snow level, a lava level, a futuristic level, and they'll all have their own mechanics and they'll all have their own thing, but they'll all be modular where I can make a racetrack that starts off with grass, goes to a snow level, goes to a lava level, and then goes to the future, and they all just fit together, and you can just use the mechanics from each one to make a unique track. But that's how all of my games are going to work. All of my games are going to work in some way of modular. They might not all have Magic the Gathering style booster packs where that's how you get more abilities, but a lot of them will have that. Not all of them will have a track you can build, but whatever you're playing on is going to be somehow modulated in so that you can make it completely random every time you play. A couple of my really big inspirations is places like Unstable Games. I love their games. I love their art style, and partially that's why I went with a cutesy art style with my very first game, but also just to make it cartoony and make it sort of family friendly. And Unstable Games is a huge inspiration for that. I love Here to Slay. I love Command of Nature. And then I think one of their very first games was Unstable Unicorns. And I love all these games. I love their art style. And this also goes back to an inspiration of they're pretty simple to pick up and play. Each card has something written on it, and that's where the complexity comes from. But the actual mechanics of the game aren't that complicated because it's really just like Here to Slay. It's getting adventurers or defeating monsters, and how you do that is relatively easy, and the dice rolls kind of do it for you. And so it's so cool. And then the other one is Brotherwise, which I showed you. I have Monster Boss. I have the standalone expansion. I have the mini boss thing, I think. And so I have a lot of them, and then Overboss, obviously. So I really like Brotherwise, and they're definitely an inspiration, especially since they also got started with sort of like Kickstarter or whatever. So that's a huge inspiration for me. And I think Unstable Games did too. So definitely a huge inspiration for me. With TX3 Games, you're not just getting Ultimate Kart Racing. At first, that's what I started this channel as, is Ultimate Kart Racing. I'm transferring it to TX3 Games, but only when I'm basically done with all the promotional stuff that I need for Ultimate Kart Racing. But the reason that I'm starting TX3 Games as part of this channel is that I want you to know that if you decide, when we launch our Kickstarter, if you decide to buy in on Ultimate Kart Racing, you're not just buying into Ultimate Kart Racing, you're also buying into TX3 Games. This isn't just one game and, oh, I hope it does good. This is the first game, and there's going to be so many more. So I'll just prattle off a couple of the ones that I have working already. There's Ultimate Kart Racing. This one is pretty much done. I'm ready to launch it. I just need the money in order to basically do advertising, because from the play tests that I've done, the mechanics are there. The mechanics are solid, and everybody seems to really react well to playing the game and how I've heard many times that it feels like a kart racing game, which is the best compliment you can give, because that's obviously my biggest inspiration. And so after all the playtests, I know I'm in a good spot with it and it's ready to go. I just need people to know about it. And so I need advertising money, and that's what we're waiting on right now. I'm basically gonna, save up some money for a couple of months and then put it all out there. The project I want to work on after that is actually going to be a sort of battle royale mixed with a trading card game. And so similar to Magic the Gathering, where you have certain cards that will have like a stock value. Well, since it's a shooter, instead of it being stock, it's going to be basically ammunition. And so you'll go to a chest, you'll open it up. And so when you open it up, you draw cards. And so when you draw cards, you're going to get some ammo, you're going to get some armor pieces, maybe some shield pieces, you're going to get maybe a gun. And so obviously you use the gun. And there's going to be different classes where maybe, you know, if you start off as a medic, you'll start off with a first aid kit or something like that. Or if you start off as a tank, you'll start off with extra armor. And then your starter pistol might be like a magnum with the tank, but it'll just be a regular pistol with the medic. And so certain things like that. It can be team oriented, or it can be just, you know, solos where you're just going in and fighting against your friends. And there'll even be a mechanic where if you wanted to, you could do duos, but you play both of the characters and so does your friend. Your friend plays both of the characters. And so I'll do certain mechanics to do that as well. Or if you really wanted to go to like a big game night or whatever and have like 10 people, and so you do duos where there's 5 teams of 2, and each person is playing each player, that will be possible as well. But again, video game related, modular, and it's going to be pretty simple to pick up and play. The other one I talked about was the creature capture game. So this, obviously, it's hard not to say it. It's inspired by something like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, those type of games where you're capturing a creature and then you're fighting them. But instead of just being, here's one person, here's another person, go. It's going to be a big, you know, battle royale style map where you have to go around, and the goal isn't necessarily to capture creatures and then kill the other players, but rather to collect badges from the different gyms. Once you collect a badge, then you can move to the next stage. And so again, that'll be modular because you'll be able to build the map in random ways. Like, so for instance, the map will be, let's say, 9 tiles. And those tiles will be pretty big, and you'll have to move across each tile. Each tile will have different points of interest. But there'll be like 20 that come with the kit. So you can set those 9 tiles up in many different ways. And they'll be set up in a certain way that, you know, there doesn't have to be one that always goes in the center or always goes on the left side. They'll be set up so that no matter where you put them, you can set them up in thousands of different ways. And so, yeah, again, that'll have a similar sort of booster pack type thing, just like the other 2 games, but also the boards themselves will be very modular. These are the games that I have the most work done, and I have a good portion of them on paper. Then there are a few that are still in the brainstorming phase, but I have them on paper and I'm putting in notes whenever I have the chance. So one is something that's akin to Murder on Wheels. So the idea of this is actually inspired by Rollerdrome, an awesome video game, and I really liked it. But I'm going to sort of do a hybrid of Rollerdrome with guns and abilities and a little bit of Rocket League, where killing enemies will then help you with your special abilities, and then you use those special abilities to get past the other players to then dunk the goal or shoot the goal, whatever the case might be. Again, that one's still in the brainstorming phase, but I have a lot of it rattling around in my head and a lot of it in note form as well. Another one that I'm really, really excited about is one that would be inspired by RTSs or real-time strategies. Obviously, since it's tabletop, it's not exactly real-time, but I do have some interesting mechanics in mind for this one. I don't have a name for this one though. So this one really is just, I'm thinking about it and I have a lot of really good notes and mechanics, but I'm not 100% set. I'm not even sure what type of universe I want to set it in, because obviously you have like Warhammer Age of Sigma or Warhammer 40K. And so do I want it to be fantasy? Do I want it to be, you know, starbound, you know, or do I want it to be something else? I saw this game the other day that was basically like, what if Dark Souls was in Victorian times? So everybody looks like they're going to the Revolutionary War as far as like the suits and medals and stuff. It looks like they're going to the Revolutionary War, but then there's this occult style and there's this guy who like turns into this hulking monster. And I'm like, That's what I want for my RTS. I want something that not everybody thought of. One of my biggest things that I want to do for the RTS game is I want to make it so that you can play it in several different ways. You can play it where you have the card and you use the card as your placement. And so this will be the bare minimum that you need for the game. You can play it with just the card with the characters on it, and you can use that card to put on the board and move the card around as a way to move your characters. So this would be the dirt cheap way of doing it, and it'll still be an acceptable way if people want to do tournaments. You can still do it this way if you want to. Then there'll be the ones where you can buy the actual models of the characters and then use those characters in the game itself. Then I also want to be able to give people the files so that they can just 3D print it themselves. I want to be extremely friendly to all styles of players and also give tons of people just any avenue that they want to create their own character if they want to, or to 3D print it themselves, to buy our models, or to just do it themselves. I want to empower the player in having fun in the game, not charge $100 for a tiny little figurine that took us 50 cents to make. It's ridiculous that happens. So yeah, my main inspiration is real-time strategy, and I played that a crap ton as a kid. So making a tabletop version of it and making it an interesting world is something that I'm really, really excited about. Like, I'm actually even thinking about writing backgrounds to all the different races and clans or whatever that you can build in the games. I just want it to be really deep and really just expansive in how the lore is of the game, so that if people want to go there, they can go there, and they can go there and they can learn all the lore. But if they just want to take their little cards, put them on the mat and play, they can also do it that way too. Another one I have is, what if Helldivers was a tabletop game? Well, not that one. What if I made it? That was dumb. Another one, a zombie extraction shooter. So obviously extraction shooter mixed with zombies. This one might actually just be like an expansion, like a super standalone expansion of my battle royale version, and I might just make it an expansion of that, but we'll see. Another one I have is a dark and darker board game where it, again, I guess is an extraction shooter, but it's D&D themed. And finally, one of my games that I'm working on, this is definitely in the beginnings of brainstorming, but I want something that's like Diablo or Elden Ring, where basically maybe you have cards and those count as your stamina. And so you use the stamina to do attacks. Once you're out of stamina, you can do no more attacks. Or you want to save some of those stamina, end your turn early, so that when it's the creature's turn or a bad guy's turn, you have stamina left over so that you can block or dodge. And so you might start off with 10 stamina, but you want to use it strategically. How much do I use for attacking? How much do I use to actually move my character? How much do I use to defend myself when it's not my turn? So, and that one's definitely in the beginning stages. It started off as, well, what if I did my own version of D&D? There's so many of those out there that I felt like, well, okay, what if I did something that was a little bit more action oriented? Sure, I could still have quests and stuff like that, but what if I just made it a lot more action oriented? What if I made it where there's not really turns? There's just, here's my actions and here's your actions, and they somehow meet in the middle. So that one I'm super excited about. And then I have a super secret one that I'm sort of building off of the universe of another one, but I'm not ready to talk about that one quite yet, just because like I want it to be a surprise. So hopefully you'll be very surprised by it, but I'm super excited about it and I love the way it's turning out. And almost 100% done on the mechanics side of it. I just need to start actually play testing it and then going from there. So there you go. This is TX3 Games. This is what we stand for, our 3 pillars, the things that we have for the future. So again, if you want to go to the Kickstarter and you want to buy Ultimate Kart Racing, you're not just buying Ultimate Kart Racing, you're helping start something that will hopefully be going on for years and years and years to come. So I hope you help me out. I hope you stay with me on this journey. And you know, let's get this going. Let's do this. So thank you so much. I was Nicholas, and you know, thank you for joining me on this video. We'll have much more to come.